Grab your free Slurpees and welcome to the Resistance broadcast, everybody. We are the podcast for StarWarsNewsNet.com. It's 7-Eleven, so I believe they still do the free Slurpee day on 7-Eleven, as far as I remember. There's a lot going on in the world, but there's something comforting about knowing that 7-Eleven is still willing to give you free Slurpee on July 11th. But we're here to give you our takes on Star Wars news, so thanks for joining us. I'm John, that's James, that's Lacey. We have a good show because we are running the gamut. We are going to be talking about a lot of the main upcoming streaming series. Kenobi's done. It's in the past. We talked to Natalie Holt. If you missed that, check it out on YouTube or the podcast feed. We interviewed the delightful composer from Obi-Wan Kenobi this past Thursday, so we hope you enjoyed that episode. I took a lot away from it. We hope you did too. But let's just move forward. And the next thing on our eyes is Andor. So it's going to be a big Andor week for us on the podcast. You guys fired up to turn the page, so to speak, and move on to the next series that's coming up?
Absolutely.
I was going to say James is the most excited for Andor, I feel.
I gotta say it. I was like, once we decided what we were talking about this week, I went back and I rewatched the trailer and I was just like, I'm so pumped. I'm like, I can't believe this is happening.
Right.
It looks so good. Anyway.
Yeah. I have a lot of faith in Tony Gilroy.
John likes it just because Tony Gilroy wrote it.
Well, something about that guy, and there's also something about people who aren't like so attached to Star Wars that happen to sometimes make the best Star Wars.
We walked out of that panel at Celebration, and the first thing you said to me was like, Tony Gilroy, wasn't he great? And I was like, I mean, that's what you took away from that panel.
I think the most of that was that he was excited that he doesn't care about keeping secrets and stuff.
That, and also he speaks with a level of conviction. We'll talk about it, but you just feel like it just feels like this project is on firm footing, and we can't say that about every Star Wars project that's in production.
It just made me laugh because we walked out with Kenobi premiere tickets, John Williams, all this stuff happened, and I walked up and I remember because you guys sat separately from me. So I walked up to you guys and you were just like, Tony Gilroy, am I right? And I was like, I mean, yes.
Was that the main panel, the Thursday panel?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah, we were all in different spots. I was in press. You were in, like, the special person. Not special person. You're in the VIP area.
I mean, I am a special person. I was in the VIP.
You're very special to all of us.
Yeah.
And James was in the balcony or somewhere. I don't know where he was. But
James got that sick picture of the whole arena. That picture was legit.
It was like when the characters are split up in Empire Strikes Back. We're all in different spots, but we're all in the same.
We all had to go on our own journeys and then connect again.
Yeah,
at the next celebration.
Cool. Yeah, we were not expecting that to work out the way it did, but it worked out for us. And we won't get into any more details beyond that. But
people have been asking if we got tickets. We did get tickets.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. We're going to Celebration in London. It is less than 9 months away officially. So that's crazy.
We have our hotel. We have our tickets. So we just have to buy flights, which are crazy. So we'll figure it out.
Yeah. And people have been asking us already, are you guys doing meetups? Are you guys going to do live podcasts? Meetups for sure, but live podcasts to be determined. That's going to be based on a lot of stuff, but we'll keep everyone always up to date on what we got going on for sure. But let's get into it because we have a pretty packed one, James. So I hope you drank your tea with honey and got your vocal cords ready because it's time to get into our first segment, our first catch of the day.
It's the Resistance.
That was a terrible transatlantic accent.
Well, it's from Empire. Our first catch of the day,
which has always been weird to me. That like if you think about the context of Star Wars, it always made it seem like they were catching rebels like all the time or something, and it kind of doesn't seem like that is the case anymore. But let's get started on the news this week, guys. The first one is going to start with a little bit of light and magic, as we got our first real look, the official trailer coming out for the show that's going to be dropping on Disney Plus here soon. And if you don't know what Light and Magic is, it is a documentary, a 6-part documentary that's going to dive into the creation of Industrial Light and Magic, which is a special effects studio started by George Lucas. And this particular documentary is done by who did it, John?
The greatest of all time, Lawrence Kasdan.
Ben Kenobi?
Yeah, Obi-Wan Kenobi did this.
Yeah.
If Lawrence Kasdan wanted to be a Jedi, he'd be the greatest Jedi of all time. But he doesn't want to be.
Light and Magic is directed by the legendary Lawrence Kasdan, right? But it is also executively produced by the great Ron Howard and Brian Grazer. So this is kind of a big deal if you are interested at all in Star Wars and just general special effects, because ILM is the premier special effects studio for Hollywood for decades. John, how much of this trailer did we see? You know, what are your thoughts on this particular trailer and what we saw at Celebration?
So I remember seeing a lot of the clips I don't think that they showed the trailer because I don't remember hearing Journey in that panel.
But I kind of
very caught off guard by that, and as soon as I heard it, it took me out of the trailer. I was just like,
it was a very like, it didn't fit to me hearing Journey.
It was weird.
Yeah, but I still like the trailer just because, you know, just like the panels, I think the panels started off with the exact same way the trailer starts off, which is that clip from George Lucas saying, like, you know, whatever he says about, you know, Star Wars is special effects or something like that, like, you know. And the minute you see George Lucas, and it looks like a relatively recent interview with him, or at least over the past year or two, it's always good to see him being back in his happy place, which is, you know, 40 years ago. So I enjoyed the trailer. I think because I was at the panel and I saw other clips from it, I didn't get the same impact from the trailer on me as maybe other people did. So it's hard for me to say like, oh man, that trailer, you know, blew me away and stuff. But it did get me excited as the little, like, you know, appetizer reminder that it is coming. And I'm very happy that this was made. It's exactly being made by who I would dream it would be made by, because I don't know how many people had a chance to. I don't think that they streamed this panel, right?
They did not. I did not see it.
So I just want to let people know, you know, Lawrence Kasdan was supposed to be at the panel and he couldn't because he got COVID. So he's got to be better by now. But just the theme of this documentary from his perspective, and, you know, how he told this story, because a lot of people know the popular anecdotes about ILM and stuff like that. And, you know, if you watched Empire of Dreams, everyone can spout off the trivia bits about ILM and how they made certain things for Star Wars back then. I think what this documentary is really going to do is let us know the people better, and sort of the ragtag cowboy renegade team that Lucas put together, almost sort of like a Star Wars group. Like, you get all these different characters of different walks of life and stuff like that, and you put them together and it turns into something special. They were sort of like, and I believe they say that in the trailer, that, you know, we were the rebellion. You know, they weren't Hollywood people. They didn't know much about what they were doing. And Lucas put them together. This is so genius. Lucas put them together because they didn't know their limitations. Like, they were ignorant to the limitations. So they were able to just, you know, when you like teach, they say like you learn the best when you're like a kid, because when you're an adult, you're like, oh, well, you know, that's the best I can do because I know that that's the bar. But when you're a kid, you don't know. So you just try your best. And sometimes you learn faster and you succeed on a higher level. It was sort of like that. And that's very charming and endearing. And knowing that their hands were molding the clay and they were putting the models together and they were setting up their shots. Like, their DNA is ingrained into the original Star Wars movies, and you feel it coming off the screen. And just hearing some of them talk about it and things like that just makes me so happy. But my main thing that I'm really happy about and excited about, you know, as a dad and someone who likes the idea of passing things on to generations, is the theme that Lawrence Kasdan made for this to tell this story was based on his grandchildren and how he's getting them into doing things like stop motion and stuff like that. And the idea of no egos, sharing and trying to boost each other and not competing. And by collectively doing that, everyone gets better. And he said he liked the idea of, allowing his grandchildren to, use their imaginations to think and come up with anything they wanted to. And he wants to like bring that sort of feeling back, even though we're in this world where, like we talk about a lot on the podcast, they're able to, with unlimited budgets, unlimited technology, think of something and boom, it exists. I think that takes away a little bit of the artistry and the way you need to be sort of like, think of creative ways to make things happen. And I think they're trying to bring back that sort of spirit and that artistic way of collaborating and creating something special. So the trailer was, good. I enjoyed it. It reminded me of a lot of the moments from that panel. I know a lot of people didn't get to see the panel, but I can't say I can go on like for a half hour about how excited I am about this. And I don't know, like whether we do a full podcast on this documentary or what, I would be able to talk about it forever. So I'm just so excited to see what comes out. And when is it? July 27th? Is that the date? Mm-hmm. So it's a little over 2 weeks away. I cannot wait to watch this thing.
Dang, that's crazy. Lacey, what were your thoughts on the trailer?
So just to preface this, I didn't go to that panel. I ended up giving my ticket to someone else because I was like, you know what? Not everybody got to go to panels. I'll give my ticket to someone. That being said, I'm going to make one little critique, and it's not about the trailer. This Light and Magic poster, which, by the way, I love it. I think it's great. The setup is, it's clearly a photo that they added stuff at the bottom. That's not the actual photo, I would bet, because it looks like the bottom stuff was added after the fact. The text Light and Magic doesn't look centered, and it's so close to the edge, it's giving me anxiety. Like, I just wanted them to take the text and just go like this a little bit. Like, just like 3-4 like hits on the arrow keys and just kind of woo, woo, woo. Oh my gosh, it's driving me nuts. That
I don't
being
know what's
said,
driving you nuts about that. It looks centered to me. Only the fact that 2 words are bold and 1 isn't could be offsetting it.
It looks off-centered, and then the white letters don't look centered either. And it's weird that you have, like, I'm not going to, regardless. that kind of stuff sticks out to me, but it's a really cool poster. The trailer, I'm super pumped about. I love the behind the scenes stuff, as you guys already know, and I love the camera movements and directors. And I mean, our favorite, I think collectively, interview was probably Eunice Huthart, who's like behind the scenes type stunt work, has been one of my favorite interviews that we've ever done. So I definitely love the behind the scenes stuff. I am kind of proud that I've gotten to the point now that like I'll watch these things and I know people's faces now. Like obviously everybody knows Doug Chiang, but like you see people and you're like, ah, yes. My favorite moment was John Knoll bringing up Photoshop. I got like really excited about that because I love John Knoll and I love that he invented Photoshop, because it's a prime example of what we're probably going to see a lot in this series is they didn't have something, so they just made it. They didn't have a way to do this, so they're just going to create it. And that, again, I said this with our interview with Natalie Holt. It's like these people are on another level of creativity and just genius that I'm like, I can't even imagine being at that level of genius. I mean, I'm creative in some ways, but not to that extent. But I know that from Celebration 2019 when we had the Mandalorian panel with Jon Favreau. And he went through the whole process of them making the Razor Crest as a model and them shooting it in a room with like a whole track system. And like, it was kind of this series of, hey, I want to do this. And then someone was like, hey, we should go get this guy down the hall that used to do models. And then they're like, hey, this guy heard you were doing this, so he wanted to join in. Hey, so-and-so said you were doing this. He actually has this piece that you need. And it reminded me a lot, only because it just was a recent conversation that I'd listened to a couple years ago, to a lot of these conversations, which they had harped on during that panel of like, it was all hands on deck. Everybody was working on everything. It wasn't like, oh, so-and-so's doing this and no one else can touch it. It was like, hey, let's all work together to solve these problems. And there's just something so wonderful about that, especially nowadays. It feels like a lot of times in the past years has been people have been really isolated, or it's kind of felt at times that people aren't looking out for each other or working together. So to see something like this where you see that kind of like heartwarming, nice feeling, hey, let's do this, teamwork, high five moments, it's going to be a joy to watch. I can't wait to watch it. It's great to see George again. I didn't know I would like miss him so much until I saw him on screen talking about things excitedly, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's George.
That it is weird being such a big Star Wars fan, and we think of him sometimes as he's already passed because he's so reclusive at the anymore.
Yeah,
it's crazy. You were bringing up the thing about John Knoll in the Photoshop and how it's crazy that we didn't have this thing that we needed to do the job, so we invented it. And
oh my gosh,
immediately
I use it
reminds me
every
of,
day.
It reminds me of like they say Sir Isaac Newton. He had a problem and he didn't have a solution to the problem, so he invented calculus so that he could solve the problem. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, well, how big of a ripple did that cause? Like him trying to solve one problem, invents this thing, and it's like that's happening like with that example, John Knoll. Like we'll see what the problem was and how that came to be, but it's like creating the entire culture of like things being photoshopped and edited in that sense is like just that's changing the course of the entire world. It's nuts. This trailer, I think, actually, and this is kind of weird to say because I was in the panel, I got me more excited than being in the panel.
Really?
Yeah.
I heard the panel was great, though.
The panel was great, but I think there was sort of a sense of they showed some stuff and it's like, it was like clips and it's like, cool, those were clips. And then like these were all interviews and the interviews were great to listen to. But this was a trailer that was really like, get ready, it's coming. It's a 6-part series. You're gonna get to watch it, and it's edited really well. Like like a long form interview versus like a television show, and seeing how it's gonna be all put together. I was like, dang, I can't wait to watch that. And I felt like I was more excited than I was walking it. The panel was an experience, but the trailer got me excited for the show, if that makes sense.
Sure.
They almost felt like they were two separate things, like as if the panel itself was like an interview with all these great people. And I was like, wow, that was awesome. And then this was the announcement of a show. And I'm like, oh, wow, cool show, kind of thing.
I really want to hang out with John Knoll. Like, he's on my list of like people that I want to hang out with.
Phil Tippett for me. My God.
He's what's the right word? He's like really kooky, like in a funny way. Like he's like out there from what we've heard from Tom, Spina and everything, like, but like in the best way.
He will naturally eviscerate any level of stuffiness in a room that shouldn't be stuffy. And I just love that aspect of him. Like he busted Chris Connolly, the panel host's chops, because like he started talking about something.
Who is Chris Connolly? Am I blanking right now? Who is that?
He's like he was on with MTV for a while. He was like one of those like host guys. He's always like one of those guys that they throw up there. He wasn't even a VJ. He was just like he would host things. He was just a host.
I feel like I know that name, but I can't.
Google him, you'll be like, oh, that guy. Yeah.
Go ahead.
He did a great job at the panel. But it was funny because Phil Tippett just starts like going off the cuff about things, and then they put something up after the fact, and he's like, well, little did I know you guys were going to put that up.
It is the guy I thought it was. He's MTV News guy.
Yeah.
From like the 90s. Yeah.
But yeah, Phil Tippett, man, that guy, I would love to have a drink and hang out with that guy because the stories he could probably tell, and just like them at that panel talking about Calamari Man, and that's why they got the name Mon Calamari. It's just like hilarious. It's just, it reminds you that this stuff was never that serious, and I love that so much.
This guy, Chris Connolly, looks like Michael Myers could play him.
You mean Mike Myers?
Mike Myers, yeah. Yeah, my bad. But
dun, 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 dun.
Yeah. What's the movie? Is that Baby Driver where they all get Mike Myers masks?
What?
Oh, they do Austin Powers mask. Yeah.
Well, yeah, he says get Michael Myers, and they all get the Halloween or whatever. Or I think he has them all in Austin Powers masks.
Yeah.
Because he's like,
Mike
I
Myers.
did get Mike Myers masks. Yeah.
Do you guys know I could do a really good impression of Michael Myers from the movie Halloween? Ready?
Go ahead.
What is happening?
This is a podcast. What did you just do?
I have no clue.
Well, if you've ever watched Halloween,
watched
that's
it.
all he does. You hear him breathing behind the mask.
Oh, that's...
You
that's what
weren't doing
did.
anything. You were just...
Yeah, it sounded like maybe there was a sound, and then maybe
Oh, you didn't hear the breathing?
You
No,
were just
not
sitting
really.
there.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
were both like,
Well, it might have recorded on my end, so hopefully it's fine.
We'll see how it turns out. I might need to silence it for the
It's a
joke.
great impression, though. Great.
All right, let's actually talk about some Star Wars shows coming up. The first one, of course, being Andor, because it's next on the slate. We got some news coming out of this, as we got a little bit of information on who's writing, who's directing, and how they even kind of broke up the shows, saying, we did it kind of in blocks. So the first season worked really well. So in the second season now, then we're going to use that block system for each year as passes by. So the first 3 episodes will be year 5. The second 3 episodes will be year 4, year 3, year 2, and then the last 4 being the last year leading into Rogue One, the movie. So pretty cool. Lots of writers and directors announced. And then we also got a couple of images from Empire Magazine. And one of them was posted online, and another one was from the actual physical magazine themselves, which we don't really know a whole lot about. I sent it right before we did this, so I don't know if you guys saw the image or not, but we can talk about it when we get there. Lacey, what were your thoughts on the directors, writers that were announced, or really just about any of the news that coming out of Andor?
So the directors doing blocks of episodes is kind of cool because then they can it's like they can consistently keep going with certain scenes that probably play into each other, which is why they did that. The writing thing is I'm getting anxiety about, because as we've seen from Star Wars, when someone writes something and then hands it off to someone else, no matter what you do, it's going to have a different vibe, because everyone writes and communicates differently. That's just how we are as humans. The example I always give is elementary school, when you did that project where someone would write the beginning of a story, then they pass the paper to someone else who would write the middle of the story, and then someone else who would write the end of the story. So I'm hoping that there is some type of... I'm hoping it's cohesive and it's not blatantly obvious that 4 different people wrote these episodes. I'm hoping not. Usually television's not as bad as a movie. When you have one movie and then another movie and another movie, it's very different than episodes, because TV episodes all the time have different writers and stuff. So, but that being said, I'm just so excited about this show. All the work that's gone into it. We know from talking about it for the past couple of years of how many sets they built, how many locations they shot at, how many people are involved, all the different actors that are we're talking top tier people. And they're bringing back people from Rogue One. And I am really enjoying, we joked about it at the top with Tony Gilroy, but he seems to really be leading the charge of making sure everything comes together. He seems to be kind of leading the charge in that sense. And it's just nice. It seems like they really have a plan for this. It isn't changing all the time. I know that there are rewrites, that's normal, but it seems like they've had a vision for this show and they're seeing it through, even if it's taking a little bit longer than they would liked. I'm happy with that, because I don't think anything should be rushed. The pictures look great. It's hard to look at the pictures when we have a trailer. So I go back and watch the trailer and it's just so beautiful. This might be the best shot Star Wars show, cinematography wise. It's stunning.
Mm-hmm. John, thoughts on Andor?
Yeah, I mean, definitely teased, and everyone knows my feelings about Tony Gilroy, and I think, in a weird way, I don't think he gets enough credit for the success of Rogue One, which trends on Twitter every day.
It really does. Rogue One trends like all the time. And then people always tweet, is it trending? I'm going to tweet this. I'm like, you tweet the same thing every time.
Yeah, he, like, I bring it up a lot because I think it's important. Like, I think, saved that movie and made it great versus, like, oh, that was all right. They did it with the plans. I get it. I think he took it to the level it needed to be. And
it's so many people's favorite Star Wars movie or favorite of the Disney.
I watched a YouTuber not today me. That was like, I dislike the Star Wars movie, but Rogue One, exceptional music, exceptional movie. Like, they just really went into it. And I was like, they released this video like 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, they bring him back for this, and then he ends up being the showrunner, and he's writing the first 3, and he's writing the last 2. And his brother Dan Gilroy is writing 4 through 6, so there's cohesiveness there.
I was going to ask you if Dan was his brother, because sometimes, you know, people have the same last name, but they're not related, so.
Yeah. And fun fact, Dan Gilroy is married to Rene Russo for 30 years. How about that? But Dan Gilroy did Nightcrawler. I don't know if you guys know that Jake Gyllenhaal movie where he plays that sort of whacked out, like, photojournalist.
For sure. Great movie.
And then Stephen Schiff is doing episode 7. He's executive producer and writer on The Americans, which is a Russian spy Cold War series with what's her name, who played
Carrie Russell.
Zoe Bliss. Carrie Russell, yeah. So I like who they have in place, and I like the fact that Gilroy bookended the series as the writer. So we know that for season 1, and hearing him talk about the whole plan. There's a structure and plan in place for this series, which there has to be because it has to lead up into Rogue One. Mm-hmm. He told us it's going to lead literally right up till Ring of Kafrene. So we're going to probably see the last shot's going to be him going there or arriving
Landing,
there.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But for season 1 alone, which takes place over the course of just 1 year in the timeline, Gilroy's bookending it. So we know that there's going to be a solid structure and reasoning for things we see in the first 3 episodes that may pay off in 11 and 12. I like that. And I just have a lot of trust in him as a showrunner. He exudes a lot of confidence, and I think Star Wars needs that right now. And I think this is going to be one of those series that, I mean, a lot of people are doing this thing I'm noticing on Twitter, and I almost tweeted about it today, but I'm trying to be better about tweeting my opinions because I just don't like dealing with, like, flack for people. But it's like people are sleeping on Andor. I'm like, I don't think anybody's sleeping on Andor. I think everybody's just confident in Andor. It's like one of those things where, like, it's coming and I'm not worried about it, so I'm just gonna wait till it gets here and it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, because I think it looks so good, people aren't like saying like, "Uh-oh, get ready for Andor to fail." Like, and
there's
getting
no
all the
fear.
And
yeah, visually is one thing, because I think without question, we saw the trailer and we knew, like Lacey brought up, there was a lot of location shooting on this. They did it in the UK. I believe most of the directors are from the UK.
I think all 3, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Some people had to stop doing it, right? Because of COVID?
They had to shift episodes around. Yeah. I believe Toby Haynes was originally going to do the first few.
And he had to drop
got moved
out
around.
COVID.
Well, he's still listed as doing the first 3. So Toby Haynes is doing 1, 2, 3, and 8, 9, and 10.
Cool.
So maybe, they move stuff around. But either way, there's just... every aspect of it, I think, is going to be very cinematic, and people are going to then use that and try to weaponize it against other Star Wars stuff like Obi-Wan, which I'm not a fan of doing. I don't like the idea of like, well, this Star Wars that I like is better than this Star Wars. It's just like that doesn't make sense to me. Make fun of Marvel, like talk about how Andor is better than, like Ms. Marvel or something. I don't know, but like leave Star Wars alone, okay? Let's not fight Star Wars with Star Wars, but. My last thought on it is that people aren't sleeping on this show. I think people are just confident that it's in good hands. It's never really had too much drama. They know what they're getting with Tony Gilroy based on what he did in Rogue One. A lot of people haven't brought this up, like Michael Clayton. It's a 15-year-old movie now, but Tony Gilroy was nominated for directing and writing that movie. So it's just, I think. You can say what you want about Kathleen Kennedy and some of the people that she chooses to bring in for these projects, but I would say if Tony Gilroy wants to keep getting involved in Star Wars, let him, because it seems like he has a real good grasp of this thing, and he doesn't need his hand held, and he doesn't need to be told. Like, I don't think he takes any you know what from people. He's like, no, this is what we're doing. Like, this is the show. I feel like he's got this thing, and he's a true showrunner on the level of like Favreau. Like, I don't think Kathleen Kennedy's like, John, do you think we should? He's like, don't worry.
I think sometimes like some of the people that they've brought in have been a little bit like iffy, like unsure, like, is Kathleen Kennedy going to approve of this or not?
Right.
Whereas it's like, she probably will, but you're being iffy about it or something like that. And he just, whatever he's decided, he's like, this is the way I think we're going to go. And of course, Kathleen is behind it, kind of thing. Because it just happens to be right. Similar to
he has a
Ryan
great
Johnson.
track record. He's no spring chicken. He's been around the block. He is an Academy Award nominated film director and writer, and he has a proven track record with Star Wars too. Kathleen Kennedy's probably like, you kind of bailed us out on that one, so you kind of get free capital here, carte blanche, and my full faith, and I think that's the right move. So there's nothing bad I could say about Andor. No one's sleeping on it. I think everyone's just really comfortable knowing that it's going to be good when it comes out.
One thing I noticed when I was looking at the different directors and projects that they've worked on is that Susanna White has also worked with Stellan Skarsgård and Ewan McGregor, which I thought was interesting.
Oh, cool.
In a specific movie where they were both cast as like the lead and support. And then the other thing that I thought was interesting about the way that these were all structured is that it seemed very straightforward, with 1, 2, 3 being one director, 4, 5, 6 being another director, 8, 9, and 10 being one director. So there is kind of like blocked there. But then one of the directors is doing 7 and then 11 and 12. And I'm like, something crazy is happening in 7. Because they wanted the person who's directing the finales, the last block, the 11 and 12, to also come back and do that 7th episode, which is basically right in the middle of the season. So something seems like it's really crazy happening there. And I'm backed up with that. Go ahead.
Oh, you finish your thought then. That's fine.
The writers, if you look at all the writers, they're blocked 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5, 6, 11 through 12, 8, and 10. But they brought in one specific writer to do episode 7. So I'm like, there's something happening in episode 7 that's going to be pretty nuts, because they needed that one to punch.
Yeah.
So it got me excited for that kind of like mid-season.
And that's Stephen Schiff, who's done True Crime. He did Lolita, Americans. So that might be like one of the bigger spy espionage cat and mouse episodes or something like that.
Episodes.
Yeah.
Could be. Yeah. Just my takeaways from that. I also noticed, or I didn't notice, but somebody pointed out that there's in the background of the Mon Mothma photo, it looks like we have the like Hera's family heritage heirloom. It's not necessarily hers. It's like a Twi'lek heirloom, but it was a big part in Rebels. So it's kind of it's one of those things where when you're looking at like Dryden Voss's lair, you're like, oh, what's that? And it's like, just happens wherever she is at the moment happens to have this like heirloom. I did see this
picture, and I remember thinking in my head, why does Disney keep making collectors in all of their stuff, from Guardians of the Galaxy to Dryden Voss to this guy in this picture? Like, why is everybody collecting all these things in all these franchises?
I don't know.
Like, that, it's always a huge plot. Like, they're like, oh, we have to go get this item from this collector. And you're like, again?
Mon Mothma's like, that was Cham Syndulla's thermos. And you cannot drink out of it.
We got a little bit of more live action
television. I'm drinking out of a thermos, that's why.
Star Wars news to talk about. Ahsoka, right? Ahsoka's coming up. And there was an interview specifically with, now I can't think of her name. What's her name?
Rosario Dawson.
Rosario Dawson, but yeah, she did the interview as well. She had some thoughts on how Ahsoka pops up in certain shows and how she's been involved thus far, but how she's going to actually be approached for her own series. And then
Natasha Liu Bordizzo?
That's who I was thinking. She also brought in her thoughts on Sabine and how she is and this particular story is, while you've watched Rebels, you can watch this on your standalone, because Sabine is fearless and brave, yes, but she still has her flaws and she's still making mistakes. So it kind of gave us a little bit of insight into how this show might play out. John, I'm bouncing back at you first. What are your thoughts on these comments from the two Ahsoka actresses?
Yeah, so three things. One, I love Rosario Dawson. Just saw the Clerks 3 trailer. I'm a little nervous about it, but I'll be there opening day. Love you, Kevin Smith. Glad you're still here. Two, I like that they're sort of saying, you know and love these characters, but you don't know where Ahsoka is now. You haven't seen her like this, in this headspace or this mentality yet. So we're going to get... In other words, like, I think that's a good way of saying... Ahsoka's been in more Star Wars content than anybody. There's a lot. She has a really well beginning to end at this point, like fleshed out story. There's a lot of Ahsoka in Star Wars. Most of it, obviously, in animation. But she's saying, like, we're going to get a fresh point of her life now, where it's not just going to be like, oh, there's Ahsoka. She just happens to be in live action. So I'm interested to see, what that means compared to what we already saw from her in Mando and Book of Boba Fett. And then on the other side of it, you have Bordizzo talking about Sabine, saying she is fearless and brave, but she's still making a lot of mistakes. So I wonder if Sabine's going to be sort of she does something that sort of triggers the story into motion beyond what we're expecting, which is just Ahsoka going to find Thrawn, to find Ezra, which I would like, because I feel like a lot of fans think they have this story already figured out, because it's going to be the Rebels sequel, and let's find Ezra, and then let's all hug at the end sort of thing. So I like that this sort of puts a question in my mind, like, ooh, what does that mean? Like, what's the mistake Sabine's going to make? Let's find that out. So maybe they split up and they do that sort of thing. But the other one I gotta laugh at a little bit, which I see all the time now with Top Gun, especially, even just recently with our patrons, it's like, do I need to see the original? And then the answer is always, no, you don't worry about that. You don't need, just come see it, come watch it, watch the new thing, watch it, you'll get it. And it's just like, that's obviously just because they don't want to shun out people who feel the pressure or the slog of having to catch up with all this stuff. You got to see Rebels before you see this show, in my opinion. Just you got to get an understanding of where these characters came from and why it's so important that they're going to try to find this kid, and how we got, like, I just don't understand how people can say that. Even with Top Gun, I'm like, you have to see the first Top Gun before you see Top Gun Maverick.
It's just like, don't, but I get what you're saying.
Yes, you do. And why wouldn't you? I don't have an hour and 40 minutes to watch this movie. It's like, yeah, Rebels is long, but at least get caught up and understand the story, because it'll be such a bigger payoff if you do. I understand why the actors say it. They're probably PR instructed to sort of pepper that in there when people ask that question, because you want to get everybody involved. You want it to be the big party, not just, oh, you like the animation? Then come watch this. It's smart, makes sense. But at least understand the story of Rebels, maybe. I don't know. That's my take on that. So not too many of expanded thoughts, but those are my three big things on this one.
Yeah, required viewing is always tricky, because I'm like, I don't know why you're going to see the third Lord of the Rings movie when you haven't seen the first two. You know what I mean? It's like, how can
you could skip the second one, honestly.
Like, my thoughts, like, how can you even, what person is going into this hoping that the movie is going to stand on its own? Now, I think it's fair that this show probably will stand on its own to some degree, but I think that it's very evidential that you should have the knowledge of how that goes into, because it's just going to be elevated to a level that most people watching the show are probably, well, I don't know, maybe not. Maybe most people have not seen Rebels, because it'll be a live action Disney Plus series, so most probably will not. So you have to think that they're trying to do that angle, but anybody who has seen Rebels is probably going to appreciate the show a lot more. Yeah. Lacey, what are your thoughts on the comments here.
Man, I could not disagree with you guys more. I think that this, specifically about watching Rebels before this show, I honestly don't think you're going to need to. I don't think Disney is banking on people are going to watch it. I think they're banking on The Mandalorian, and that you got introduced to Ahsoka through The Mandalorian if you're a general casual fan, and that you don't know who Ahsoka is before
But do you need to watch 4, 5, and 6 before watching The Mandalorian?
No, you do not. Absolutely not. And there are people that...
Do you think that it is better if you've seen it? That's what we're saying. We're not saying it's required viewing.
Look, dude, I understand. I'm saying that John was saying that you should watch it before he thinks that you should, because you're going to get more out of it. And I don't think that's the case. I think that there's a lot of Star Wars fans that started with The Mandalorian. I think there's a lot of Star Wars fans that started with The Force Awakens that don't know anything prior to that, and they don't want to, and that's fine. I think that this show, her comment, I honestly don't think is a PR move. I think she's genuinely saying, like, hey, if you don't want to see it, you don't have to see it. And that's just my opinion. I think that this show, my concern with it going into it is that just like every other show we've watched so far, like Obi-Wan Kenobi or even Mandalorian, and I remember when it leaked that Ahsoka was in the show, I had this kind of concern was people have a lot of history with Ahsoka and they have a lot of knowledge of what she's gone through. And a lot of people love the Clone Wars or Rebels or whatever. So there's a lot of kind of emotions and history there that people have taken to a personal level of like, that's my character. So I genuinely think that these two characters, when we see them in the show, yes. Are there going to be Easter eggs? Of course. Are there going to be moments that call back to certain things? Sure. But I don't think it's going to be to a point that you're going to be missing out if you don't know that other stuff, because they want to give you something completely brand new so that if you are seeing these characters and they're not the voice actors that you expect, and it's not those people that, some people are still annoyed that Ashley's not Ahsoka and stuff, you're not going to get that with this show because it's a completely fresh new take on Ahsoka, and that's, I think, what it should be. So I don't think you need to watch Rebels. Am I going to watch Rebels before I watch this again? Yes, absolutely. I'm going to refresh myself before I go in so I can pick up on certain thing. Do I think you have to? No.
Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, John.
Yeah.
Did you?
I wasn't trying to force people. Yeah. What you're saying.
Yeah.
You both were kind of intense about it.
No.
Like you have to see this.
I feel like I'm saying exactly the same thing you're saying, in the sense that I don't think any of us are saying that it's required. You won't understand what you're watching unless you watch Rebels. But we're saying you should, because it's going to be better. Yeah. I'm kind of like, you're going to like it if you like it. There are so many new fans that have popped up since The Mandalorian started that have either gone back and watched stuff in Star Wars or just been in the Mandalorian Mandoverse type stuff that I honestly don't think you need to, jump over different shows, different timelines if you don't want to. And I think they're going to present a show that you don't need to do that. Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I don't particularly have any thoughts on this. Everything seemed right to me. It seemed like they were setting up Sabine as, Sabine has had 4 seasons of an arc. She went from this character to this character by the end. So why do we need to see another show with her? She's already figured everything out by the end of it. And I was like, I think all they're saying here is that she doesn't have everything figured out. She's not... the old wise character anymore. But I felt like that was already going to be the case when they announced that she was actually, it when they show the end of Rebels and she's there getting ready to go on another journey. I was like, I don't know if that's going to be in a book or a comic or another animated show or whatever they're going to do with it. But very clearly when that story gets told, Sabine is going to be a character that is the main driver, and so it's very important that she also is having her own arc there. So it's like, I know she's going to make mistakes in this. She's probably going to be pretty driven to get Ezra back. She'll probably be angry, that he's still gone and that, he just left and made those decisions without her, kind of lied to her in order to win the day.
Do you think when she finally sees Ezra, she greets him angrily?
Maybe. Like like Maverick and what's his name? Who's the son?
Rooster?
Rooster, that's right, yeah. He like pushes him down, like I said, he runs up, pushes him down. Yeah, so let's move on to quickly for our last story here, and that's that Carl Weathers was talking briefly about The Mandalorian Season 3. In an interview, he was asked, about the show and about the costumes and about his directing and how he, is looking forward to, or what can we look forward to in your episodes that are in Season 3, and how do they compare to the episodes in Season 2. There was a lot said here. I'm going to bounce back at you, Lacey, on your thoughts for Carl Weathers and what he said about Mandalorian Season 3.
I love that Carl is so honest in every interview. Like, he doesn't give stuff away, but like, he's not hiding anything either. And he's always the first one to tweet stuff out being like, we've wrapped. Like, I was Grief Karga today. He's just so open about the whole process. I had to laugh that he said, I love directing. It's my passion, because it makes me think of that meme that's like, graphic design is my passion, and it's like Comic Sans. But that's an aside. But I really enjoy how much he's enjoying the process of being a part of The Mandalorian. He came in as an actor and he did such a great job, and then they expanded into directing, and they're continuing that. He's clear that's what he loves to do, and I appreciate that they're letting him do that, because they could have told him no. They could have told all these people no, but Jon Favreau believes in the people that he chooses for his team, and there's something really charming about that, about him being able to talk about the way he talks about it and experience these things. And there's also this element of he's seeing these dreams through and doing things like directing later in his life. And there's just this nice feeling of, it doesn't matter what age you are, like, go ahead, pursue those passions and those dreams and those goals, because you have the time you have, like, take advantage of it. And I really love that, because, I have a lot of goals and dreams and stuff, and I'm always like, oh my God, is it too late? It's never too late. And I when I see stories like this, I just get really pumped, because I'm like, yes, there's plenty of time. I did get excited that they talked about how this season had more action. I really love the action sequences for The Mandalorian, especially in Season 1, like a lot of the fist fights and stuff with the stunt guys. So I'm pumped to see where they go with this one.
John, thoughts on Carl Weathers?
I mean, I've always loved Carl Weathers, so it's just I'm just so happy that he's still in the mix here. I think, didn't he direct the episode with Gene's guy and they had to edit it out?
Yeah,
he did.
Yeah,
he did.
So I wonder if they're gonna it'd be funny if they did some sort of like self-aware nod to that. But I know they waxed out Gene's guy in the edits. But
imagine if you were Gene's guy though. You're like, oh man.
I know. Yeah. I think
you're always
name him like
Gene's
Kevin or
guy.
something. Yeah.
I think they should have left it in. Who cares?
I know, but yeah. I mean, Lacey made great points about the fact that it is inspiring seeing someone who already sort of. He could have just put a bow on his career and said like, I'll just do a few more things and then retire. But he's like, no,
dialed it in. Yeah.
I want to try directing now at age 67 or whatever it was, and that's really cool, because he sounds very passionate about directing. It's not just one of those things where he's like, they're letting Carl Weathers direct. He's like, no, I really love this. And that's really cool, because who knows, maybe something I'm not into now is something in 20, 30 years, I'll be like, wow, I just realized that's my, passion or something. So I do agree, Lacey, that is very cool that he said that sort of stuff. I felt the same way about the footage we saw, or trailer, whatever you want to call it, for Mando Season 3 about Andor. It almost feels like Favreau liked the way he was telling his sort of tribute to Saturday afternoon serial type stuff, but then saw maybe footage from Andor or even maybe some Kenobi stuff, and he's like, we got to step it up a notch here. Because it does feel way more like a movie in some of the big wide shots that they have coming into this series that I don't think I recall seeing at all in The Mandalorian. And the one that keeps standing out to me for some reason is that long hallway shot of Bo-Katan on the throne, and I'm just I keep thinking about her and what they're going to do with her character, because I think there's a real interesting opportunity there with that character. So we'll see what they come up with. I'm just glad to know that Grief Karg is back and that Carl Weathers is enjoying being a part of this, because there's nothing better for me, like I always say, than people who are established, who are in Star Wars and involved in Star Wars, but also love that they are. I think that is really important to me as a fan.
Yeah, I don't know what I could add to what you guys are saying, because I agree with everything said before me. The one thing that I can give my own kind of example to back that up is ever since he's been on the show, I've always kind of thought of him as Carl Weathers, the actor, and how he, you know, has been involved in so many other things before this, that in a way he kind of has that right to be like, well, I'm Carl Weathers sort of thing. And he's never really had that approach, because I think he's thinking of himself as a director, and also, hey, I'll be in the show too. I think he's thinking of himself as a director, and because he's sort of new to the scene in that regard, he's always treated himself with a lot of humility when it comes to the interviews and how he's been, you know, he's asked about these things and he's like, oh, you know, I did my best and kind of thing. Like, I really tried to make it as good as I can. So I've kind of appreciated that, in the sense that, like, it's kind of strange to hear someone who's been involved for so long as one thing, and we all know them as one thing, trying something new, and they're very real about the fact that they're still learning how to do that thing. Similarly with Bryce Dallas Howard, you know, like, everybody knows her as the actress Bryce Dallas Howard, but she's talking about The Mandalorian from a directive point of view. So it's interesting. But yeah, that's it for the Resistance Report this week. I'm going to send it to you, Lacey, for our next section. What are we doing?
All right, guys, it's time for the Patreon pod race. So there are lots of ways you can support us. You can like this video, comment, subscribe, follow us on all the audio platforms like Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Please leave us a review if you get a chance. It helps us out. On Twitter at RBATSWNN, or on Instagram at The Resistance Broadcast. But if you want more, including extra videos, live streams, Discord access, much, much more, you can head over to patreon.com/Resistance Broadcast. Starting at just $2 a month, you support what we're doing here. You say, hey, I like that you talk about Star Wars. Here's $2. And you get to be a part of the page and watch, watch what we're doing and get updates from us. And we have so many other things that we're going to be doing with the Andor series and throughout the next year. But yeah, so this is the part of the show where our generals and spice runners get to take part. We ask them a question, they give us an answer. It's a good time. So we're going to say thank you to those people first. So thank you to our generals: Carmelo, John Reese, Jetta Rosewater, Paul Olson, Frank Grande, Darth Hurricane, John Charlton, Nick Kratz, Christian Morales, Brian Smith, Matt Chitty, Danny, Mike Ramori, Matt Heath, Chris White, Brendan McLaughlin, Count Pepto, Sam. Oh my God, Sam, I am blanking right now. You sent me a video about it too. Samuel Zilke and Val Trichkov. I'm so sorry, Sam. Thank you guys so much. And we have our Spice Runners: David Probus, Neil SHAH, KENDALL, GELNER, Ryan WAARA, Dave HORNAK, MICAH Harrison, Thomas Hennessy, who did an awesome spice run. Definitely go check it out. Andrew STALEY and Jeremy Myers. Thank you guys so much for keeping it spicy. This week we have... Spoiler alert, I'm seeing what it says here.
So what is it, Zilke?
I'm blanking right now what it was. He made me a video and sent it to me. I'm blanking.
I think there was another name that I did the same thing for one time, where I was like, I specifically went back to when they typed it out
made sure
and was going to do it right. And then when I got to it in the episode, I was like,
Samuel, you're the best. I love you. And I'm really sorry. Okay. So the question this week for Spice Runner, Graybeard, David Probi-Wan Probus. You're welcome. Is, with Andor debuting late next month, what are you most excited about for that series?
Ooh.
So, Probi-Wan Kenobi, take it away.
What's up, TRB fam? Tell me you're a TRB fan without telling me you're a TRB fan. Make Solo 2 happen? Jacked fish. What's up, y'all? It's Graybeard. So let's talk Andor. I think the thing I'm most excited about Andor is seeing the early rebellion, seeing how he got to where he was when we saw him in Rogue One. I want to see, what his struggle has been, what the fight has been since he was 6. And it's always cool to see like the early rebellion. So that's what I'm most excited about for Andor. It looks really cool. The cinematography looks really cool, and it looks like it's gonna be bigger, grander. So that's encouraging. Anywho, hope y'all are doing well. Graybeard is out.
Awesome job, David. John, what did you think?
Well, first of all, how did you do a pod race and not have a fan blowing on the beard? That's what I'd like to know.
Don't blow him up on like that. Put him on the spot.
How dare you, David? No. First of all, I love that you got the care package. I love seeing the Make Soul 2 Happen sticker, and of course the Jackfish button. Very cool, man. Yeah. I mean, your answer makes a lot of sense. We've been speculating, and I've thought that we may even start this series off by seeing little 6-year-old Cassian running around or something like that, and horrible things happen to his family, as they like to do in Star Wars. But
the mom is totally dead.
Yeah, moms don't do very well in Star Wars.
They do not.
Or Disney in general, right? But
yeah, as a new mom, it's
maybe
quite
they'll flip
shocking.
it. Maybe they'll flip it for Cassian. The dad dies and the mom lives, and then it's supposed to echo Jin. Who knows?
Maybe. But yeah, you're right. We've been saying that just a few minutes ago about how grand this is probably going to be. So I think you're right on the money there, and the trailer was really cool. I actually have to give it a couple more rewatches because it's been a while since I just sat down and really took a look at that trailer. But thanks for all the support as always. Great job as always, and I'll see you on our call, which is coming up soon, among other things, over on Patreon and of course in the chat. Thanks, buddy.
James?
Yep. Yeah, as always, man. Great job on the pod race. Very fun. I'm excited for Andor. It's good to hear that you're excited too. Trailer does look gigantic. It looks big. It looks very exciting. Man, I just love that you rep the podcast too, like all the time with all the stuff. It's very cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, thank you for all that, man. And great, like I said, great pod race. Good job,
David. You're just so awesome, and you're just one of those people that always makes me laugh and like has such a positive attitude, and it's just like so refreshing to know another Star Wars fan that is just so wonderful like you are. I do like your answer. I love that you're showing our merch. We're glad you got the box. And Cassian is going to be epic. Back to you, John.
All right. Well, we're sort of up on time, so we're not going to keep talking to each other. Enough already, So thank you to everybody for listening and watching, being a part of TRB. We love you dearly. Hope your summers are going well. Like Lacey said, make sure you're subscribed, but also spread the word about the podcast. There's a lot of Star Wars fans. Like Lacey brought up before, some people just started Star Wars with The Mandalorian and stuff like that. If you have a friend who just got into Star Wars, be like, dude, do you know about podcasts? Do you know there's Star Wars podcasts? Check out the Resistance broadcast. Let's listen to it together. Let's do that. Spread the word. It's the best way we can grow. So thank you for that. Also, StarWarsNewsNet.com. That's where you got to go for all of your Star Wars news, reviews, editorials, information, and more from an honest fan perspective. You can find me on Twitter at Johnny Hoey, writing and editing at Star Wars Newsnet, and my movie podcast, Just Like the Movies. We're going to be doing Fugitive tomorrow. Should be coming out tomorrow. So check that out. The Harrison Ford Fugitive. I think there's one from like 1960. But yeah, I know. I didn't kill my wife. What a movie. I can't wait to rewatch that. James, what's up?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram, both at Myra Trunks.
Yes, we can. Lacey?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Lacey Gilleran.
All right, folks. We will be back with you on our normal schedule Thursday with a discussion episode, and we'll let you know what that's all about as we get closer, probably around Wednesday evening or so. But until then, enjoy your weeks and get your Slurpees, and we'll see you next time right here on the Resistance broadcast. See you around, kids.